So I'm really, really excited to welcome you all to our webinar today with Vanessa Megan. I'm Anna. I'm one of the campaign managers here at Birchal. Just before we kick things off, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I'm beaming in from today. Birchal is based on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Now, Birchal is working with Vanessa Megan on their upcoming crowdsource funding offer. You might be quite new to crowdsource funding, so absolutely throughout this session, please hit us with all of your questions. I'm here to answer any of the questions, about how we're actually, getting through this process if you're new to it. And obviously you'll have lots of questions for Vanessa and Derek. But basically, crowdsource funding is a relatively new form of fundraising in Australia. It allows startups and small businesses or growing businesses to raise capital from a large number of smaller, also known as retail investors, and wholesale or sophisticated investors. Now, that's done through an online platform like Birchal. Instead of seeking traditional funding from sources such as banks or venture capitalists, companies can actually turn to the general public, often their communities or customers who love their products, which I have a sneaking suspicion is the case here, to raise money in exchange for shares or equity in their business. Now, Birchal Financial Services will be the licensed intermediary for the offer. The information and discussion in this webinar is for informational purposes and should not be considered as advice or a recommendation to invest. Please, of course, do your own research. Always consider the offer document and the general CSF risk warning before investing. That's available on birchal.com. I dare say that's how you've all found yourself here today. Now, a quick little heads up of how today's session is going to run. Ness and Derek will take us through a great presentation all about Vanessa Megan, their journey to date and why they're here raising capital from the crowd. We'll then switch to a Q&A. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little bubble. Please pop your questions in there as we go along, and we can answer those during the Q&A at the end. Of course, if you come up with more questions at the end, we'll cover them too. If we don't quite cover everything today, the team will be able to respond to those questions afterwards. So please pop your questions in there, even if we look like we're running out of time. We are also recording today's session. So if you do have to jump off early, the recording will be sent around. Obviously, we're all busy, we get it. There's the YouTube recording will be made available. So that is enough from me. I'm thrilled to hand over to Derek and Ness to take you through the presentation.
Great, thanks, Anna. Hello, everyone. Just a quick introduction from myself before I hand over to Ness. I'm Derek. I'm the CEO here of Vanessa Megan. Super excited to obviously be working with Ness, but more so to have all of you on the call today. We've been overwhelmed with the expression of interest. We've had over 600 already. So we're just going to quickly take you through a presentation now. You'll hear from Ness and get an update from her, and then we'll touch on basically how the business is flying and why it's a perfect time for us to be seeking funding right now, and for you investors, potential investors, to be jumping on board as well. So, look, and at the end of the day, I'm just a CEO. You all want to hear from Ness, the brilliant founder and formulator behind the brand. So Ness, I'm gonna do the controlling because we're in two different places. Yeah, over to you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you.
Thanks, Derek, and thanks, Anna, for explaining all of that because it's all new to me as well. It's really exciting to be here today, and most of you know the story about Vanessa Megan and how it began. But for you and those who don't know the story, I began formulating back in 2001 after speaking to my best friend Mel, who was a lawyer, and she was representing a woman who had had fillers put into her lifelines and they reacted with her body and she had to have them surgically removed. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. What should I put on my skin? And Mel said, Ness, you should never put anything on your skin that you wouldn't eat. That made so much sense to me. So I went out the next day looking for something good enough to eat. And back in 2001, there was nothing. So like every good farm girl, if you can't find it, make it. And I started making my own skincare, and I went down that biochemistry rabbit hole about what we put on our skin and what's the closest oils to our natural sebum, and how could we get what we needed from the garden. And I truly believed that we could find everything that we need from the garden. So I just challenged nature and began creating skincare. At the same time, Mel was diagnosed with cancer, and she went in for treatment down in Melbourne. She asked me to be a person who could help her. And on her journey, when I was taking her to treatment, there were signs saying, if you're going in for this treatment, you cannot have sorbeline on your skin or anything with mineral oil. And I was like, why? Why can't she have that? And, you know, very quickly found out that it was a petrochemical, and that a lot of these ingredients that are in 97% of our skincare was toxic and would disrupt our endocrine system. So it just propelled me to learn more and find natural solutions to put on our skin. Unfortunately, Mel didn't make it, but her legacy lives on with the brand. And the more people that we educate, the more her whole phrase and the motto of the business comes alive. So within 8 years, I had done a lot of research on products and what we should and shouldn't put on our skin. And I was talking to some of my friends who are really intelligent, savvy women of the eastern suburbs of Sydney, and they had no idea what they were putting on their skin. I thought, oh my gosh, if they don't know, how many more women and men don't know what they're putting on their skin? So I made it my mission to start educating people while having a completely other career. And within 6 months, we were at health stores around Sydney. Within a year, we were sold nationally. And within 2 years, we were sold internationally. And I really saw that there was a great gap in this world that we lived in. This was in 2009, that people didn't know what they were putting on their skin. So it just began as a hobby and a passion that grew into a commercial brand. I call myself the accidental entrepreneur, and which is why I'm so happy to have Derek on our team, because it really helps to support the business side of things while I can really stay in the creative and formulating. So we created the Nutraceutical range because as the brand developed, I realized that natural and organic was only good for so long. People were looking for results, and it wasn't enough just to be natural and organic anymore. We were certified with the Australian Certified Organic Body, which is a body that certifies products good enough to eat. And it really catapulted us into the industry as a reputable brand. And then we really found our home in spa in 2019, and the brand has excelled so much from there because people have been able to try it during treatments. We don't only just do the skincare, we do body care and perfumes as well. As we know, anything we put on our bodies, including perfume, goes straight into our endocrine system. As you see with HRT patches or nicotine patches, there is a direct link of products going into the skin. So scent is also a big part of that. When we got into our spa, with our spa partners, we really saw the growth of the brand and the interest increase. We've never had anyone in sales, much to my husband's surprise, who has a sales background, and it really has been word of mouth, and somewhere we really want to focus moving forward. To be able to create these products and see the results has really inspired the menopause range that we're launching at Gwingana today, and to be a solution to a problem. That is a big thing for me. I'm a big problem solver in all facets. If there's a problem, let's find the solution. And it really helps with the Vanessa Megan range, but more so now with the Metamorphosis, which is our menopausal range, because we're looking at real specific skin problems for mature skin that doesn't exist anywhere in Australia, especially on a natural foundation. So we've got the Vanessa Megan Nutraceutical Skincare, and we've got the Metamorphosis range, which has only launched about a month now. And it is proving to be quite sensational, which there's always that question mark about how something is going to be received, but we're really excited to see so many people resonating with this range. Then we've got the fourth layer. Not many people know about this. This is the motto for the brand is to get as many natural and organic products into as many people's homes and onto as many people's skin as possible. That's what I lead with constantly. And when someone comes to me to formulate for them, it's just another avenue to amplify that motto for me. So whether it's under my brand or someone else's brand, we're getting natural and organic into people's homes. So we manufacture for approximately a dozen different brands. There are naturopathic brands. There's a surgeon that we manufacture for. I have been for the last 2 years, and we're very specific about who we manufacture for. A lot of bespoke scents in the candle and perfumery industry I will manufacture for. They will mention that I formulate for them, but I am not allowed to say who I manufacture for. It's part of our privacy policy, but it does generate a lot of income for the brand and really helps to support our ethos and also on a day-to-day running of the business. Next slide. This is when I'm going to pass you over to Derek. He's my numbers man, and he will be able to explain our achievements.
Great, thanks, Ness. So as you can hear from Ness, Ness has built a fantastic business. Great products, great formulations. Established really fantastic partnerships with key partners such as Wingana, and I think the most importantly, built a great loyal community of brand advocates and a great team, but a small team. And we'll touch on that in a second. But, you could talk about great products and great brands, but what has been the achievements? How has the business grown? So, I'm really lucky to be here today explaining to you that, the business is in great shape. We've had 4 years of consecutive year-on-year, at least 20% year-on-year growth. As you can see from the graph there, and this doesn't cover FY20 as well, we've had 17 consecutive quarters of year-on-year quarterly growth. And that's, I think, a fantastic effort. A lot of that has been driven by our online performance. And I just want to raise that because, you do hear a lot of press at the moment that post-COVID, a lot of the online businesses and e-commerce are facing a lot of headwinds and are struggling to, recycle the growth during COVID. Well, we grew 54% last year online, and that's for fiscal year 23, and already across the first 3.5 months of this year, we're already up 40% as well. The other great thing is we've just landed our highest revenue month of all time in the history of the business, being September. We're up 60% through the first quarter. And just having done a quick check yesterday on October, we're already up 30% versus last October, the full month of last October, to 17 days into the month. And that's really been driven in October by, our stock is taking on Metamorphosis. So this is really the first month we're seeing the revenue impact of Metamorphosis come in as well. So the business is, in great shape. It's flying. And really the message is, we are playing in a category that is very resilient. So we know that beauty is forecasted to grow, single digits for the next 5 years. History shows that beauty is one of those very few categories that even during very challenging economic times is very resilient. And we know that women continue to buy into beauty even during those times. Natural and organic skincare is forecasted to grow at twice the speed of the full category. And really the message that we want to leave you from, how we're performing in the category is that we're actually growing twice as fast as the actual natural category itself. So, and to touch on Nessa's point from earlier, with very little marketing spend and no dedicated sales team. So just to recap the business model from what you're probably thinking, well, why is Ness down at Gwingana for some of you that's not familiar with it? Well, it's pretty simple, particularly, and this is largely focused in Australia at the moment. We produce and manufacture the products that we supply to our spas and salons, and they're our key distribution partners. That's where a lot of our consumers trial our product on referral from and recommendation from our spa partners. They obviously enjoy the product there and then go to repeat purchase online. They also drive some recommendation and referral. So new customers obviously then come in and buy us online. And we do a little bit of marketing to try and actively recruit customers via our online marketing and digital sort of advertising as well. It's a pretty simple model. Ness has already touched on 4 layers of revenue stream, but when it comes to Vanessa Megan and Metamorphosis, there's really 2 revenue streams. That's through our spa and salon stockists, as well as our online vanessamegan.com web store. And you can see, despite the fantastic growth, we have a clear run rate to really accelerate the business. If you look at, we only spend a very small amount of our sort of expense base. About 8% of our revenue goes into marketing, which for a scale-up business, through a lot of my experience is very small. Most businesses in scale-up mode should be spending 20% plus into their marketing. And we've got a great low sort of consumer and customer footprint, but in relative terms, it's pretty small. So we think we can absolutely accelerate that. With no dedicated sales team, we've grown our distribution, 60 plus in terms of spa salons and other retailers, and you can see our online performance. So really what we're talking to you about today is, how can we all go on a journey together to really, make the most of the opportunity that presents itself for us, offer a really solid business that's already growing at a fast rate. So our growth strategy is actually fairly simple. And that is threefold: to continue to accelerate Vanessa Megan. So by investing more into sales and marketing, we believe that we can easily triple the base of our business threefold over the next 12 to 18 months. Properly launch Metamorphosis. So we've had a soft launch. We've had good initial pickup from our spa and stockists, and that's where Ness is at the moment, with some early award wins as well. Now is the time to actually replicate the successful model from the Vanessa Megan spa range and to drive some consumer awareness. And that's what we're focusing on now. And again, something that we really haven't focused on, but organically it's grown, is our international expansion. So, it represents about 6% of our business now, and largely driven through a distributor in Eastern Europe and one in Hong Kong. They actually reached out to us, and to show how that's performing really well, just organically, is we've already delivered through the first quarter, we've delivered through those 2 distributors more than we did the whole of FY23. So again, really driving our growth. So we believe there's a real appetite out there for Australian natural skincare and beauty, and obviously we want to be the leader in that. So continue to expand in Asia, reopen Dubai, which was a good distributor for us pre-COVID, and then really the big one is to seed our brand into the US. So together with you out there, it's a really simple journey that we can go on, but it'll be an exciting and great journey. Nessa's already touched on the mission that has always been her belief from the very start. And for us, it's investing into marketing to really attract new consumers to the brand. It's putting in place a dedicated sales team that can nurture our existing relationships, as well as accelerating and finding new points of distribution, and as well as growing our international distributors. And there's 2 key fundamentals of the business that have obviously enabled us to grow, but we really need to invest working capital in so that we can continue to meet our demand, and that's education and operations. And a little bit more detail around that. We've never really done proper brand building campaigns in marketing, so the funds from our investment will go into driving that, as well as obviously having the right marketing team in place, putting in, the right dedicated sales team, funding trade and retail partnerships, particularly in the international and the US, to really, take us and grow what is a really, I guess, that is a clear runway that we haven't even sort of unlocked yet. Put in place, sales platforms to improve our relationships with existing SPA and stockers, so that ordering and replenishment is frictionless. Put in the right educational platforms and programs, and that includes, we've just taken out the lease on the premises next door to where we are, building a training facility there to enable the right, our partners, our SPA partners, to send staff down so that we can train them properly, and then they can continue to recommend and refer our brands. And then from an operations viewpoint, as you can see with that growth, fulfillment, lab, warehouse, we just need more space, and we just need more people to meet that demand. And and a business of our size now, and the scale that we're going to, implementing such fundamentals and foundations such as an inventory management system and a warehouse management system to really allow us to grow. So, the message before I throw over to a Q&A is really to say, we need to scale up the business to sustain our growth, which has been fantastic over the last 4 years. And with funding, we believe we can rupture the business and elevate it to the next level. And that's really the exciting part. We've got a lot of expression of interest. We're looking forward to talking to a lot of you over the next few days and into next week, and hopefully as potential investors and partners into the future. So that's really it. Thank you for your time and for that presentation. Really happy to throw over to some Q&A now, Anna.
Amazing, super interesting, and we've got some really good questions coming through, so thanks everyone for popping those in. Just a little bit of a heads up, I may jump around in the order of the questions, so don't feel like if I've skipped your question that we won't be coming to it. It just can help to organize the train of thought a little bit as we answer these, so never fear. We've had one question just to kick us off, a nice easy one. Can foreign investors invest in Australia and in this deal? So that's from Laurie. A little bit of info, and I'll share with you via email afterwards, Laurie, a help guide on our website. It is possible through Birchal. Before starting, you actually must satisfy yourself that it is lawful for you to invest from the jurisdiction you're located in. The CSF offers on Birchal are made under the Australian securities regime, in particular, a very specific part of that regime, which I'll share with you and I won't bore everyone with. So yes, it is possible, and please seek independent legal, financial, tax and or other professional advice before making your investment. That was a nice, easy one to kick us off with, wasn't it? Andrew has asked, what percentage of sales are made online?
It's a great question, Andrew. At the end, for the fiscal year ending 23, 47% of our business was driven through our online store, Vanessa Megan. Obviously, we have some other third-party online retailers, but that gets factored into sort of our wholesale numbers. But through our own web store, it's about 47%, and that's obviously grown quite a bit from previous years. Amazing.
And we've got a few questions about why are you fundraising and how will the funds raised be used, which we've covered a lot on in the presentation there. But did you have anything you wanted to add, perhaps particularly why you've turned to crowdsource funding and your community? Maybe this is one for Ness to answer as well, because I know certainly how passionate you are and how important your community is to you. Perhaps you may want to touch on, why crowdsource funding is where you've turned to for your capital raising.
Yeah, great question. And it's definitely one that I wasn't quite sure about at first for crowdsource funding. First of all, I started this whole project on the back of my tax return, and everything that we make goes back into the business. So every bit of expansion is when we get a bit of money and then we go, oh, what can we do with this? Making it 18 new SKUs and the metamorphosis range, but it doesn't allow us to grow other parts of the business that are really requiring that at the moment. So that's the reason why we want funding is so that we can grow, and at the same time, rather than grow and halt and plateau and grow again, because it's, we really are hitting our stride at the moment, and strike while the iron's hot is what I've always been told. The reason we went with Birchal is because when it was explained to me, I know that I could work with people that know and love the product, and they've seen our journey, and we can work with people who know our progress and give them the opportunity to be a part of the foundation of what we're growing, and that it wouldn't be somebody that doesn't know the ethos of the business saying to us, no, you can't do that, or kind of dominating from the top in a way that could ruin the brand values.
Amazing. JP has asked, are the formulas unique and can they be replicated without rights? So essentially, do you own your formulas?
Yeah, they're all mine. They're not from somebody else, which is what does set us apart as well, because it's not that we go to a manufacturer and say, I want this or I want that, and just pop a bit of Kakadu plum in there. It is very difficult to patent a formula, very costly. We do have trademarks on names and product names, but we have IP on all of our formulations, and nobody has those. They can reverse engineer it, like anything, I guess. But what's great is that no one really has, because they're quite complex.
Too good. JP also asked, you mentioned 20% year-on-year growth. What was the profit margin for previous years? If you don't have that at hand, I'm sure you could reach out to JP afterwards.
No, and look, we've had this question come up a few times. We've had at least, so just to clarify, we've had over 20% year-on-year growth for the last 4 years. So we say 20% just as a bit of a conservative way to encapsulate that. We are, to Nessa's point, we are a business that's in, very much scale-up mode where, and this is why we're doing funding now. Nessa's basically whatever she makes, she puts back into the business to try and continue to grow it. We have been a profitable business for the last 4 years, but it's small profit. But I think given the current conditions and a lot of the businesses out there, trying to raise funding, we are the unique position that we actually have been profitable for 4 years. So, and it's a small profit, but this is the runway where we believe with funding and scale, not only we're going to accelerate the top line, but we can actually not just we make this a highly profitable business as well. And that's really our ambition. And I think that's the key, and happy to have, sort of take that line and provide the specifics after this as well.
And I do want to just add to that as well. We're not just profiting and continuing, we're profiting and growing. Like, the creation of a whole new range is not cheap, and we've done that and still been able to have a profit. So I just want to add that if we weren't growing and putting it into that, there would be a bigger profit too.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Ness. So just one of the things, because we're a relatively small business, in terms of the way we operate, what Ness actually means by that is a lot of the expenses in the creation of Metamorphosis has already been expensed into the last fiscal year and the way we do it. So again, that's why the appetite for profitability is really there for us to sort of unlock as well this year, because we're selling the products that we're essentially paid for, or to a certain good degree, last year.
Amazing. And just a little bit of an addition there from a Birchal perspective, and just a little bit of context. So ASIC takes a firm view about future projections, whether that be, product revenue or return on investment. And as touched on by Derek and Ness, whether a company intends to pay a dividend in cash or shares or reinvest those profits, will be all outlined in their company's dividend policy. So as mentioned, many companies that make a CSF offer a new early stage or rapidly growing. And in those early stages, the businesses may choose to reinvest those profits back into the business to fund the future growth. So for more information, please carefully review the company's constitution and the offer document for information, further information there. And we did also have a question while I'm on this topic. Where am I? Sorry, as I'm scrolling through all of your amazing questions. Someone's asked about the documents that will be made available during the offer. So if anyone's new to crowdsource funding, the offer document will be made available when the offer goes live. Now, this document will contain 12 months of the last financial statements or a relevant period pending on when the company was incorporated. So you'll be able to see the financial position and accomplishments, customer base to date, et cetera, et cetera. So if you've got more questions, obviously the team are available for more specific information. But of course, please review that offer document when it becomes available, because they are very juicy documents. Some people they put to sleep, some people absolutely love them. So I absolutely recommend that you go and download that document when the offer goes live. And of course, if you haven't already expressed interest, please do so, because you'll receive all of the information you need via email of how to access that document and when it's available. So you'll be the first to know.
Yeah. Sorry,
Cool.
Anna.
Yeah.
I was going to just one quick one on that in reference to the offer document, and to just touch on JP's question, to go back to that, is that in the offer document, you'll obviously see our financials, and you'll see the very healthy gross profit margins that we have in there as well, which obviously I think is one of the really strong, compelling points of this business. So I know we talk about profit, but there's also the gross profit as well. So that's featured in the offer document too.
Amazing. And I think that also covers Surayani's question. I hope I've pronounced your name correctly. That's how you'll be able to access further information about the company share offer. So someone has asked, a few people have asked actually, and you've already touched on it, but perhaps if you could share a little bit more information. Can the current production facilities handle the additional demand? Now, you've mentioned you're expanding. Maybe you want to cover a little bit more there.
Yep, great question. We have 2 off-site manufacturing plants that already are doing by the tonnage. And so we've had that in place for the last 4 months, and they are already locked and loaded. So our capacity to grow is ready and locked in. So that was number 1 for me, because I'm head of production and NPD. So we've got those 2 locations in place, basically. Yeah, so we can grow.
Amazing. And speaking of growth, will you look to expand the product line, for example, into hair care or cosmetics, or stay within the skincare arena only? If not, how do you propose to stay relevant within this niche?
Look, it's so funny because just this morning at Gwingana, that came up, because in the professional range, we've got a hair treatment and a hair oil, and there has been the request to bring that into a retail item. We used to do shampoo and conditioner, and we have been umming and ahhing about that for quite some time. I think that is very likely to return. The great thing is, with me at the helm of formulations, we can create anything in the space that is relevant. There's definitely other niches as well that we've already thought about, and also other areas. And look, something that I really I have always looked to our customers, and in this case, when we have AGMs or being partners, that really look seriously at everyone who has any of these ideas. And if there's a gap in the market, like the menopause range, we want to be the first to market for that. And I saw before in a message, Cassandra asked the question or mentioned that there is no other menopausal range on the market, and we really saw that there was a space there that really needed to be filled. So look, if it's done somewhere else better and I can't do it better, then I'll probably go in a different direction. But if it hasn't been done, then there's nothing stopping us.
Amazing. So many more questions coming through, which is awesome to see. So I'll cover off, we've had a few multiple part questions that we've answered a few bits of. So someone has asked, do you foresee any bottlenecks with growth, and where are you hoping to be in 5 to 10 years?
Funding is a bottleneck, which is Derek, what about, I mean, apart from the manufacturing, that was the biggest concern for me last year. And we sorted that out. It was my major concern this year. And now that we've got that in play, that was the biggest one.
Yeah. And I'll throw over to Ness at the end to kind of go, well, what do we hope for in 5 to 10 years around, what Ness really wants to be, as a way, in terms of, as all investors on this call going, how big can we grow, and then how do we exit to make our return? And I'll let Ness address that, because I know Ness got some thinking around that. But in terms of bottleneck, funnily enough, to Ness's point, it is the funding. Because if you think about everything that we've just covered off, we're a relatively small business and we're flying. The category in itself is beauty is booming. Natural is growing twice as fast as that. And really, when you think about the runway, and particularly how many customers and consumers we do have, there's no reason that with just even, and the funding we talked to and what we're asking for and going, and we want not necessarily covering that today, but what we want to do with that is there's no reason why we can't at least triple the business. And again, projections and forecasts, I'm keeping it relatively high level, but there's absolutely, and I've joined this business from 20 years of working in blue chip multinational FMCGs and so forth, is that there's no reason why we can't at least triple the business in Australia alone, the market that's available, and the quality of the products, with no need to change our business model, just with additional marketing and sales support in really simplest form. And then when you think about the world stage and the quality of the products and how Eastern Europe have approached us, how Hong Kong have approached us, and organically that's reaching a good size and scale. So imagine what we could do if we actually put some focus into growing in the international market. And we're obviously having, a lot of discussions in the background, which, obviously we're not setting any expectations for that, because, this is a proper funding round, but, there's an absolute runway there that's clearly untapped. And I think this is all the journey that we want to go on. So we talk about bottlenecks. Yeah, it's probably getting the funding in. And then obviously, that taps into the operational side to ensure that we can actually meet the demand that is currently coming through.
Amazing. Now, speaking of your marketing strategy, we've got a few questions on that note. We've got a observation to kick us off. Where are we? Caroline, you've disappeared. Was it Cassandra? Pardon me as I dig through all of the questions, everybody.
Cassandra's, Anna.
Pardon?
Just in regards to that metamorphosis, but also the Mecca where we want to go in the future. Is that the one that you were looking at?
Yeah. So Cassandra said they've noticed that in their demographic late 30s, a lot of their friends are sick of Botox, wanting to return to nature and to age gracefully. I feel like metamorphosis is really ahead of the curve. They've wanted to share that observation. But it was another one I was looking for, that they hadn't actually noticed the brand before, so they can see clearly the need for the marketing. Here we go, Heather, sorry, forgive me. They hadn't been aware of the brand until very recently through Instagram, so they understand why you need more marketing. They've ordered some product and keen to try it for their mature skin, delivery pending. Thank you. But the question was, what are the retail targets that you're looking to unlock? Is it Mecca? Is it Farmanies? Is it boutiques internationally, as Derek's just mentioned?
I can answer that one, or Derek, you can come in too. We have looked at those platforms, and some of them want full exclusivity, and and which means that it would have to be only with those companies, and we were expanding too fast to go into an exclusive arrangement. Plus, we also wanted to have that one-on-one conversation with our customer, because the education is really key to us. And so we've chosen, or we've fallen into the home of spa, where we would really, that's, you know, it really would be a great positioning, and also online, but it's not ruling out your Sephora's or major retailers, especially internationally, where we're in conversation with a couple of people at the moment to be able to go into that. And look, that's something that I'd also leave to a sales team. At the moment, we don't have that, and any of those, as long as we can still have a one-on-one conversation with our customer, that's the most important thing.
And I know we've talked about it as well. You know, you've got to be geared up and ready for that growth. You know, taking on a major international supplier takes inventory, it takes investments. So definitely keeps, I imagine, you all busy and probably up at night, I dare say. So we've got a question here. So similar, on the same trend of the marketing. So Joe has mentioned they've seen brands they love grow into aggressive marketing, which turns them off, especially if the product quality deteriorates. How do you think this can be avoided?
So, and it's a great question. And all I would say is that, having worked with Nest for a little while now, you've got the biggest gatekeeper of efficacy and quality around formulations, and Nest is very protective of those. And a lot of the critical decisions that Nest has spoken about, including ones that Nest just touched on around retailers having, expressed an interest, very protective of the brand, and very protective of not trading the brand to a certain level. And I think, the quality of the formulations and what Nest stands for is very much at the heart of, not changing. And I think that's really the compelling point around the size of our business now, and the products where, the belief is Nest is very protective of it. And I think, that's, you're investing as much into the brand as you are in Nest and the quality of those products. And, I think, when we first went on this campaign of crowdfunding, what surprised Ness and I, because this is the first time we've both been on that journey, is, we obviously emailed our existing database as a first teaser that we were going to go on this, and their reaction to what we were doing was overwhelming, because they just want to see these quality products and formulations that they know in the hands and on the skin, I should say, of more people. So I think the biggest challenge that you'll have around maintaining the standards of the product is actually, Nest herself. So that's probably the best answer.
Amazing. And that was on the back of another question from Syed, that had said, first of all, they're a big fan. The reason I believe Vanessa Megan has made it this far is simply because of the superior quality of the products. Bio Omega oil is stellar. And they agree more marketing and sales strategy is the way forward. They've mentioned, generally speaking, as a business grows, the quality of the product seems to deteriorate. Simple to lower cost. We've covered the rest of that question, but they have then asked, could you speak to the corporate governance structure and the directors personally invested in the business, including all operational staff? I'll cover that off with saying the offer document will have a lot of information to answer what I'm sure will be more questions that you have there as well. But Derek, you may want to touch on that a little bit now.
No, and as part of this process as well, we've got 3 directors that are part of this business. Obviously, Ness being one of them. We have Grant, who obviously has an extensive background in business as well, who happens to be obviously Ness's husband. And then Ness has got a very trusted advisor who comes from an extensive sort of, and I'm going to undersell his background, sort of financial mergers and acquisition, capital raise background, a lot of corporate business building background as well. Also as a director on our business named Jason. who, funnily enough, introduced myself to Ness as well. So we have that. And then, sorry, was there a component on the team operational structure as well, Anna?
So they'd asked, are directors personally invested in the business, including all operational staff?
Yeah, so a couple of things there. As part of this process, we will have an ESOP, an employee share option plan. So obviously, future forward looking is, and this is because Ness has obviously had a lot of loyal people work for her, is that, we want them to be invested in this business, and we know that they're very keen to. So as part of this process, we will have that into the future. And obviously the two directors, and obviously our board is responsible for a lot of our governance. Ness and Grant are heavily invested into this business. And for Ness, that's to answer that question, Ness is still very much steering the ship as founder and formulator. And obviously being a key person on the board. One thing I would ask Ness, though, to come back to one of the earlier questions, is I know a lot of people are raising these questions, in terms of return for investors, maybe, and so forth. I think, we believe that in investing what we're making into the business and from the funds to really scale this business to what we believe could be, not putting out numbers out there again, as you mentioned, but we can really create a rupture in this market and get this business to an amazing scale. And then what does that return mean for investors? Well, I throw over to Ness around, in 5 years, I think that's, it's not obviously the short-term return for investors. It's really the 3 to 5 year game around, potential sale, exit, or whatever Ness has in mind. That's going to be the big return for, the capital return for why jump on board. So,
and I might just jump in there as well. So if you're not familiar with crowdsource funding, the class of shares that you'll actually be investing in are fully owned ordinary shares. And in crowdsource funding, these shares are considered illiquid, which is why Derek's mentioning exits there, as they can't be easily transferred or sold, such as, on the ASX in other share classes. However, there are numerous possible circumstances that may create opportunities for shareholders to exit the business. That could be a trade purchase of the company, a listing on a registered stock exchange, for example, the ASX, a private equity investment in the company, or a share buyback by the company. Of course, it may include, but are not limited to, those options. You will have to make your decision to invest based on the information provided in the offer document, and obviously consider the CSF risk warning as well. Sorry to jump in there before handing over to you there, Ness. Just explains a little bit of the context behind the share class.
Yeah, look, thanks for doing that, Anna. I haven't got any firm plans of what we'll do. It is something that I would like to, collaborate with, but it is to build to sell, definitely, looking within 5 to 7 years. And that would be what we would be basing it off.
Amazing. We had, I think we've answered your question there, Joe. Joe asked, is the investment in the form of shares? Yes, they are fully owned ordinary shares. Cara has asked, while we're still talking about product and operations, they've asked, are the offsite plants fully owned by Vanessa Megan?
They are not, but with funding it, they could be.
Yeah. And just to clarify, 90% of what we produce is actually made on site. So made by Ness and our lab and our formulation team in our lab at our HQ in Marrickville. So, and we've just taken the premises next door. So we're essentially doubling the size of our lab, which is essentially our manufacturing component, in our warehouse. So 90% of what we make is done on site, which we're expanding. And obviously as we grow, probably more of that will need to go to the offsite. But yeah, just so it's not a lot, it's only a small percentage that currently goes offsite at the moment.
Amazing. And speaking of production, Nina has asked, where do you source your raw ingredients from, and how do you guarantee quality and supply as demand increases, especially in the light of global warming?
We purchase, Nina, our ingredients all around the world. And we have fantastic suppliers who can help us source the best ingredients from the best organic locations. They don't usually change, and all of the ingredients that we use, unless there becomes a worldwide shortage, like there was of rosehip around about 8 to 10 years ago, I have made sure that they're available and from sources that they're not going to have shortages, and they're farmed ethically as well. So there are a lot of local and international farms that we work with and suppliers.
Amazing. Now we have a few questions here about what are the benefits of being a shareholder, and we'll then get to, I'll let Derek handle some other kind of incentives that may be available for investors, aside from, of course, the honor of supporting such a wonderful Aussie brand. I'll just quickly cover off, because I think it's helpful to explain in the context of crowdsource funding in other forms of funding, the benefits for investors. It's actually as simple as access to investment opportunities. You know, for the first time, retail investors can access investment opportunities previously reserved for venture capital firms and high net worth individuals. And there's lots more information on our website about this, and I am reading directly from the website in case it wasn't obvious. It also democratizes investing. Crowdsource funding is open to all over 18. There are lower barrier entries to invest than in other forms of funding. There are no fees for angel investors, and members of syndicates can invest directly in companies. There are no management fees. It's a regulated regime. As you may have noticed, the crowdsource funding regime is highly regulated and includes investor protections like cooling off rights, particularly if you're a retail investor. That's anyone who's investing less than $10,000. You have cooling off rights, which allows you to cancel your investment, no questions asked, in 5 business days after making your investment. Obviously, become an owner. You can become a part owner and support your favorite Aussie businesses. Transparency, the deal terms are the same for all investors, whether you're investing, you know, $500, $500,000 or $5 million in the company. Ordinary shares. So as I mentioned before, investors will receive fully paid ordinary shares, and portfolio diversification. So the CSF regime provides access to startups and high growth businesses for those investors interested in diversifying their investment portfolio. But Derek and Ness, you may want to chat a little bit. I know you've got some juicy rewards planned for everyone. A little bit of context just for everyone as well. We're in the expression of interest phase at the moment. All of the information about the offer, including the specifics of the rewards, will be available when the offer opens shortly. So as I said before, if you've not expressed interest already, please do so. You'll be first to find out when all of that is available. But I know obviously Ness and Derek, you're doing crowdsource funding for a reason, about bringing your community into the fold. So your community who loves your product. So perhaps you want to hint to what those rewards might be, and any other ways you may be thinking about including your investors in the business moving forward.
Yeah, look, I just want to say that the benefits of being a shareholder, and also Sarah's, asked the question of the benefits of the return on investment for investors, because if we're at a place today and a value, and we do all these things that we say we're going to do and historically have shown that we can do, then I believe that that's the return on investment on a fiscal level, and also on the level of having one-on-one or team commitment with each other to be able to directly talk to our partners. It's not going to be just that, it can be just set and forget if you want it to be, but you can be as involved or as active vocally as you want. And I'll always listen. I'm not the type of person that will be like, that that's a bad idea. But to really be involved, and what we love doing is involving people, especially people who want to be involved in decisions, new product development, that we can bring, like our focus groups that can be made up of all of our shareholders that we speak to. And if they aren't right for it and they're not a teenager, or we're doing a teenage range and they've got teenagers, then they can be involved in that way. So we really see it as a family rather than just an investor as such.
Amazing. And Michelle has asked, what are the foreseeable risks for investors? I'm sure these have been very hard and deeply considered by yourselves on a daily basis. Did you want to chat through and let everyone know some risks that you've considered that might apply to the business and to investors?
Absolutely, Anna. Just a couple of, before I touch on risk, just to finish off what Nessie was saying there, we will obviously share the rewards information on that next week. But from the sounds of a lot of people on this call who love the brand and product, there will be product involved in those rewards at different tiers. So don't worry. They will definitely be part of the rewards. And Nessie and I are just finalising those now. And look, from my perspective, look, why come on this journey? I think there's the purpose piece. 100% taking 100% natural skincare solutions to the world, and obviously in Australia. It's not just a trend. It's clear from from everyone's comments, literally in the chat, as well as obviously the growth and how big that industry is now. That being on that journey collectively and having a skin in the game, so to speak, pardon the pun, to be involved is great. And then secondly, I've been part of the company for 3 months, and why I invested in working with Ness is for the same thing that hopefully most of you shareholders are. And again, this is my opinion, but in that sort of 5-year window that Ness is talking about, there's a lot of untapped potential, and what the value of this business could be, and the value therefore of your investment, in my opinion, and that's why I'm here invested into it, is significant. So there's that. And then on the flip side, yes, absolutely. I've been through a couple of sort of cap raises before, so it is very normal to be talking about risk. We as a management team, and that's why Nessie has brought me on as part of the evolution of the business, is we need risk and opportunities. So I can talk about all the opportunities we're going to unlock, but there are risks. Being a founder-led business, obviously, there is a risk, and I think Laura's asked that question. Nessie's obviously a critical component of the business, being a founder-led business, and obviously with the formulations, and again, that's why Nessie has grown the team over the last sort of 12 months. And you'll see in the financials, it's been an increase in people, because that's a safeguard and future-proof the business. We can't have Nessie doing everything like she has been for a long time. We want Nessie to focus on creating these wonderful products, on formulations, being the chief product officer, and that's why she's brought myself on as CEO and other people on in different capacities. So that is one of the biggest risk mitigators there are. And then other risks, obviously, all the standard ones like economic conditions and so forth. I think, the other one is, it being a manufacturing and product business, product recalls. We do have insurance and product liability in place. Being a heavily, online business at the moment, we've got, cyber insurance lined up, and all those regards, and improving our tech stack and, our security. And again, bringing on the right people such as myself and e-commerce people, then that's, again, the safeguards that we're putting in place from a risk mitigation viewpoint. But again, in the offer document, we have listed, a good probably 10 or so risks that are obvious in there. Again, do have a read of those and some of the sort of risk mitigations that we've put in place.
Amazing. We've had a final question here from Kulin. They've asked, how is your sales team going to be set up? I imagine you may not have all the answers now, but do you have any ideas of what that might look like?
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious one is we have 0 fully dedicated salespeople right now, and we're going to put at least one on with the use of these funds. And look, with my contacts, but probably more so Nessie's contacts, and actually, how appealing it is to work on our business at the moment. Not because the salesperson will get to have treatments at Gwingana and Alba, which, to be honest, I might take the sales role myself, to be honest. But that the first thing is that we're going to have at least one person obviously reporting into myself, who's going to take on the ownership of having a proper sales skill set. Ness and Jules, who's our sort of national trainer, have kind of been the Aussie salespeople to date and done a fantastic job. But they have certain skill sets, and they've only got a certain amount of time as we continue to grow the number of retail partners and spa partners that we have. So having someone that understands our industry, that has really strong sales skills, the ability to build relationships, find new points of distribution. First and foremost, it will be that one person that we'll bring on board, reporting into myself.
Amazing. Belinda has asked, can they keep investing on a regular basis, i.e. buy more shares? I guess from one perspective, if Vanessa and Megan decide to come back and do a second crowdsource funding round, which quite often happens, we have people come back and do second, third or fourth rounds. That's of course always possible. But Derek and Ness, did you want to touch on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it is one more for you, Anna. Like, we would love for people to keep on buying into our company. This is the first round of funding that we require. We believe that what we're asking for really helps sustain the business for at least the next 12 to 18 months as we continue to rupture and grow. As per most businesses that continue, if we keep on delivering to what we commit to deliver in terms of results and performance, then yeah, we probably will need to look at further funding rounds down the track. But in essence, we would love for people to keep on investing into our business, because that means that we're continuing to deliver the successes and achievements that we believe that we can and have committed to.
Amazing. We've got a final question here. I'm just conscious of time, everybody, so we might have to take some of these offline. Lisa's asked, will the offer document include the bios of the directors? Yes, there will absolutely be more information about the directors in the offer document. Will it include future projections? I touched on ASIC's view on these earlier. ASIC's view is actually that future projections need to have a reasonable basis. So Derek and Ness have touched a little bit on this already in terms of the assumptions that they've made when making those future projections. So do please keep that in mind when you're considering those future projections. Obviously, you can see history in that offer document as well, which is important to consider. Lisa's also asked, do you have an ideal raise amount? The minimum and the maximum will become available when the offer goes live, so do keep your eyes peeled. And they've also asked, how long will that last before you might have to raise again and continue the projected growth? We've kind of touched on that, and it will obviously depend on what the team end up raising and that run rate. So Lisa, if you've got any more questions, I know Derek would be keen to have a chat, so I'll share your details with Derek and Ness, and they can reach out separately, and Sarah as well. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I will just end on Cassandra's note because I think it's really lovely. They've said there is so much potential here. They've always seen it. They feel like seeing more of Vanessa on the socials will also really help the human element, the relativity, the story. She is magnetic. So I think that's a beautiful way for us to close. From Birchal, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I completely appreciate this is really new to everyone. So thank you so much for your questions. I hope we were able to cover a little bit of that for you. If you're still not quite sure how to go about your investment, we have a support team who can help you. So please email support@birchal.com if you're having any troubles at all with your investment. Do keep your eyes peeled. There's lots of help guides in the emails that Derek and Ness are sending to you. And please also plot around on our website. We've got a great help section, which hopefully simply explains everything for you about the process. But as I touched on earlier, we're in the expression of interest phase at the moment. So the offer, when it goes live, is when you'll actually be able to apply for those shares in Vanessa Megan. And I know the team are very excited to have you on board. So we've got some thank yous coming in the chat. Thank you all. That's enough from me. I'll let you sign us off, Ness.
I just want to thank everyone for coming in today and asking their questions. And we are available for any others. Watch out for that offer document because that's got a lot of answers to the questions, which I think is going to come out next Wednesday or Tuesday, Anna?
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. So watch out for that. And yeah, enjoy World Menopause Day. Happy World Menopause Day.
Today.
Good.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.